On the journey to titling of all public school land in Kenya, a few battles may have been won.
A people united shall never be defeated.
But the fight to reclaim and title public schools is far from over.
Only about 30% of schools are titled, which means 70% of schools in the country are at risk of anything, either being grabbed, either disappearing.
Kesi inapoamuliwa kweli, waone kweli watoto wetu wanateseka, wanaenda 10 kilometers.
People who went to court to protect schools in their youth are now old and still in court.
Hii shamba ilikuwa imetengwa kwa ajili ya kiwanja. Sasa shida ile ilitokea ni kwa sababu kuna watu ambao walikula njama.
This is a story about the fight to right past wrongs, understand the current struggle to title schools, and protect the future for Kenya's children.
I want to advise our leaders and every other stakeholder out there. Let us play around with any other thing, but not education.
This small circle of old men is what remains of the community that came together in 1979 to donate land upon which Covino Primary School in Eldoret would be built. The documents they hold state that the land was mapped out and set aside as public utility land where schools and other social amenities, including a cattle dip and a dam, would be built. That was close to 36 years ago.
Hii ni dip ile inakaa. Hii ni mojawapo ya public utility ambayo members walitoa. Ya kwanza ilikuwa ni mambo ya barabara. Barabara kwanza ilitengwa kila member apate njia yake ya kutokea. Alafu ya pili ilikuwa shule. Kwa shule tulitoa eka 22. Alafu ya tatu ilikuwa ni dam. Tunataka haki yetu. Ya shule ni haki ya members ya shamba. Na walitoa wenyewe. Kila mtu alitoa sehemu yake. Kwa share yake unatoa kidogo, ikasukumwa mpaka ikakuja hiyo shule, hiyo eka imetolewa kwa shule.
Not long after the land was allegedly donated, Mr. Kangogo Chebiato and Mr. Kipsat Ayabe laid claim to the land. The community went to court to protect the school, and that is where the dispute stayed for close to 3 decades.
Kuna hata wakati mwingine file ilipotea 5 years. Mwisho ikapatikana Nairobi. Sasa atungefanya chochote bila file. So hiyo ndio mambo ambayo ilitufanya hii kesi ikachukua muda mrefu.
Well, I think communities are acutely aware of the need for them to protect school land. One, because in many cases, if you move away from the towns and cities, you will find that schools are built on land that was originally donated or bought from people within the community. And once that land has been put forth through whichever means as a school land, a public school land, it becomes the common heritage of the community in that area. So the first line of defense when it comes to protecting public school land has been the community. They are the ones who call us up.
The wheels of justice have moved painfully slowly for the Covino community. Now, a real threat stalks them.
Kesi imefanywa muda mrefu, airisha, wanaweka mbali, tunakaa, miaka naenda, wasi ndio sisi sasa karibu na kwenda, nani atatetea hao watoto?
There are so many impediments to school titling that it's not just a school doesn't want to have a title. Sometimes it's because either from the grabbing or succession cases, schools find themselves with a lot of court cases.
Tulipokuwa tunajenga shule, hakuna mtu alikuwa naishi hapo. Kwa sababu squatters walikuwa wamefanya nini? Wameondoka. Hii shamba ilikuwa imetengwa kwa ajili ya kiwanja. Sasa shida ile ilitokea ni kwa sababu kuna watu ambao walikula njama. Wacha niseme kweli. Walikula njama ya kwamba ati shule ile ilitengwa kwa shamba lote. Ati ilitengwa na wazee wa zamani huko, wale trustees huko, shule iko huko. Kwa hivyo hakuna shule hapa. Akasema hapa hili shamba ya yetu, hakuna shule hapa, shule iko huko. Waliharibu mambo kwa sababu walikuwa na wakubwa. Ulikuwa na mkubwa mwingine alikuwa anatisha watu sana. Wacha nisiseme jina lake, la tatakuwa mbaya. Kwamba mtu asituputu kushika shamba, wacha watu wakae. Hata watu wakakaa kwa shamba ambayo si yao, wameuza yao, wanakaa kwa kiwanja ya shule.
We sought a response from the legal representatives of Mr. Kipsat and Mr. Kangogo 1 month before the publication of this report. They are yet to respond to our questions. Efforts to protect public school land have been left to initiatives by citizens of goodwill and head teachers.
Shule Yangu Alliance was formed to protect, title and own public schools land. The rationale is that our public schools, which are facing risk of being grabbed, and some of them have already been grabbed, need to be repossessed. And that to do this, we need to process titles, which are the documents of ownership, and go beyond that to protect the schools, but also promote community ownership of the schools so that they can defend the school land within their vicinity.
Public school head teachers have had to become public land defenders by virtue of being the managers of their schools. The former head teacher of Naka Primary, Francis Mwangi, spent a good share of his life defending the school.
I'm actually involved in the case, and especially taking into account that I had been taken to court as an individual, not as the head teacher or the secretary to the school board of management, but as myself on that issue of the demolition of the wall. So I'm still keeping tab on it, because even after we had been acquitted, all of the case had been withdrawn by the DPP, the complainants took the DPP back to court for having withdrawn the case. So I'm still keeping in touch, because the moment the DPP is, if he would actually go through with his appeal now, that is against the DPP, then it would mean that the case would start all over again about the demolition issue. So I'm keeping my ear on the ground. I'm following on the issue because I'm still in town. So when the case is on, I usually go to appear in court. But this time for the purpose of following on what is happening.
The retired head teacher has joined hands with the current administration to continue the fight for the school as part of the community.
I'll join with the residents to play the part that we can to make sure that the school comes back to the public. Even if it were not at the front line as I used to do, I would still fight. I would still give my advice where it is needed, at least without seeming to be interfering with the current leadership.
Saseni? Mkoaje? Unaendelea vizuri?
When we visit Naka Primary to speak to Joseph Kabuga, the school's new head teacher, we notice that tension is still high at the school. Our presence arouses the curiosity of unknown persons who are allegedly employed by ENSA Limited, the company claiming to own this piece of land. We had to pause filming our interview with Kabuga as a stranger came and handed a phone to him, telling him to speak to an unknown caller. He obliged and found out that the person on the other end of the phone was determined to find out who we were.
Hello?
Okay, those are spies. So they look out for anything small that is happening. Why they do that, I don't know. But I'm told they are simply spying on everything and everybody who comes here. And for sure, anytime a vehicle rides in this school, they must get around to see what is happening.
Apart from being under surveillance, the court case has made it hard for Joseph to focus on his core task of running and improving the school.
Court cases means a head teacher is in court instead of a classroom. So it takes them away from the classroom. 2, it's expensive. And number 3, it can drag on. You know, you have these cases dragging, like our Naka case, we've been in court since 2016. It means every time there's a mention, there's a hearing, you have to keep going to court.
I feel that there's injustice. I feel that for sure this land must belong to school. And I feel the sooner it is returned to the public, the better. I feel disturbed because I am managing an institution that could be having a lot of facilities, but due to this situation, we have almost nothing. You don't even have water to drink. Even if you visit a toilet, you don't have water to wash your hands. So basically, we are disadvantaged. Those are my feelings. And I wish, it's my wish, that this issue will be resolved soonest.
I appreciate the new headmaster, that is Mr. Kabuga. He has the zeal to continue with the fight over the getting back the land. I appreciate he is very much interested.
According to Mwangi and the court documents we have seen, Ence's claim to the property came after a number of allegedly illegal transactions.
During the time the case was going on between the Municipal Council of Nakuru and the Pipewood Housing Cooperative, there were no documents as such, only the maps were there. What the Municipal Council and the residents were relying on were the physical planning maps that showed that this place had been left specifically for primary school. Actually, it is there even now. If you go to the county government offices, in the physical planning section, you'll find that this place still stands as set aside for primary school. Otherwise, there's no record that could be available at the lands registry in Nakuru. You go ask for this thing we call the search, none could be given. There was no record that would have been given whatsoever. Actually, when we followed the matter with the registry, the lands registrar in Nakuru, we found that the file is actually under his lock and key in his office, under lock and key. But when ENSE took over, they provided documents to support their claims of ownership. And one of the documents that they provided to us as the defendants was the green card that showed the school actually had a title in the first place, which had been transferred to a private company called Hyrax Developers. And Hyrax Developers had sold the land to Pipewood Housing Cooperative Society, and then the Pipewood Housing Cooperative Society sold the land to ENSE Limited, who are now currently holding the title. However, the title has been revoked. Had been revoked by the National Land Commission.
We sought a response from the legal representatives of ENSE Limited, but have yet to receive a reply. Many public schools in Kenya are in a similar situation like Naka Primary and continue being at risk.
The biggest challenge has, one, the sheer number of schools without titles. As we speak now, and even if you look at the number I've given you earlier, only about 30% of schools are titled. which means 70% of schools in the country are at risk of anything, either being grabbed, either disappearing.
My fears are that we might lose this school because you see the whole of this space has been taken and we are squeezed somewhere in the corner. So my fear is that one day we might wake up only to be told, pull down these structures and leave. And these kids will be left without any school. You know, the kids are innocent. In fact, they don't know of another school. If you tell them that their school is not like any other, they'll tell you no.
The National Land Commission was established in 2013 to manage all public land in Kenya. Public secondary schools are also facing the same challenge, but there are silver linings. Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta gave a directive for the issuing of title deeds to all education institutions managed by faith-based organizations. Covino Secondary School in Bondo, Siaya County, received its title deed in 2018.
Covino Secondary School was started in the year 1967. Going by the records that are there in the office, it was started by the Catholic Church. The issue of titling of schools and schools acquiring title deeds is always a very cumbersome exercise for most schools, especially going by the nature on how land on which schools are built are gotten. Because you find that for a school to get land, it calls for donation of lands from very many different members of the community. Some of them agree, others don't agree, but at the end of the day, the land is given. So you would find that getting a title deed for a school, most schools, ours included, for a very long time has been a challenge. So ours came to us as a surprise when Shule Yangu group came through our area MP, and they told us that Covino Secondary School is going to be the venue where they want to launch the exercise of school titling. So the Shule Yangu group told us that they are partnering with the Ministry of Education to help schools acquire title deed because of the very many challenges that they have also had from many schools. So to us it was a surprise. And we want to say that we are greatly privileged because I remember on that day, it was around the 18th or 17th of December, it is only our school and one other school in terms of secondary schools that were issued with title deeds. Yet Bondo Sub-County alone has got 42 secondary schools, and that thing included both the county, the Siaya County and Kisumu County. What wanatembea?
Some school heads have complained that the titling process is difficult to understand, saying that it is time-consuming and costly to the schools. This becomes more difficult when there is no budget in place to cater for the expenses involved in the process.
The procedure for a school to acquire title deed, what I know, first of all, it starts with a BOM meeting. Because you know in the board, the community is represented. We have some sections of the board members who represent the community. We also have the area chief, who is a member of the board, by extension an ex officio member. So it starts with the board. The board would sit down and say that we want our school to get a title deed. So from there, maybe some select committee of the board would be appointed, those who knows the area well, so that they can go and find out maybe from the lands office and any other place, which individual parcels of land made up the school. If at all the school it had not been consolidated. So they would go finding out through the we call it a search in the lands office. Then they would get all the parcels that are there after they have seen the map, and then. So after getting the parcels, then if the go-ahead is there and there is goodwill from the community, then a surveyor would be invited. This surveyor would go around and measure the boundaries, the sizes and every other thing and put it in writing. then it would be taken to the land board, and then the land board would discuss. Then all those processes like education and the rest are done, and then title deed is issued after payment of the fee, which is required.
In this day and age, a title deed is a vital document useful beyond proving ownership.
The title deed is a legal document. The moment you have it, it is the only proof of ownership for the buyer or this person who claims to be owning the land. Because you know, in land cases, we have the tenant and the owner. We have the landlord and the owner. Before you acquire a title deed, you are not the landlord. Yeah, a title deed makes you be the landlord. And when you are the landlord, you have the right of ownership. And you can now find that you will develop your land, you can do everything within the school as the board without much problems. But before a title deed is acquired, you would even find people encroaching on the school and you may not have much to say. Because they will say that this was our land, it was donated without our consultation, and because it is this part of it is lying idle, we would want to use it because you are still not using it. And there's nowhere you can take them because you also don't have a proof of ownership. We have people who are used to particular paths, maybe in the middle of the school. It will lead to a lot of problems that you cannot block us from passing here, and this place is ours, and so on. So generally, title deed reduces conflict between the school and members of the community. That is one. Then two, we can use title deeds to solicit for funds to develop the school.
The importance of surveying is even if you don't have the title, at least you know the boundaries of your school. Because we are having cases where private developers or mischievous Kenyans are hiving off schools and putting up apartment blocks. So please take advantage of the free service that has been offered by national government and survey your schools. Because our population is growing and the pressure for land is growing with the population.
Stephen Odhiambo is a school captain here. He can draw a straight line between the school having a title and his well-being as a student.
In this school, I love the way teachers carry up with their work. For example, like right now, you can see the whole school is not very easy to find a student outside. And even the teachers are very busy giving what they should give to the students. Secondly, there's an improvement in performance. If you can check the previous years, there's much improvement. And even the strategies that are put in place can say that there's something going on that can be seen.
I want to say that or to advise our leaders and every other stakeholder out there that let us play around with any other thing, but not education of young people.
The process to ensure protection of public school land has been slow but steady.
Well, we had put for ourselves a target of processing 10,000 schools. And for me, I choose to hold this as a working number. But the president himself did, express his desire that within 1 year these schools should be fully titled. It's unlikely that they can be titled within that 1 year, but if we work, everyone plays their part, I see this happening substantively within a period of about 3 years to 5 years at the maximum. So within 3 years, we should have at least 90% of our schools titled.
A majority of Kenyans who have been formally educated have at one point in their lives attended a public school. Through school alumni associations, members of the public can support schools to get title deeds and protect school land.
Our alumni campaign is anchored on the work of Future First, which is an alliance partner. And so as they engage the alumni associations, they then stress upon them the urgent need to make sure that one, their school community has land, has the same land, for example, that they had when they were in the school. Two, that school is fenced, because fencing then means the security of that land. And then 3, that they are adding their voice to our school protection.
The Kenyan people must rise up and protect school land, and not just school land, but every public land on which public utilities stand. Because our campaign is for now concerned about school land. But our courts have lost land, our prisons have lost land, our police stations.
For many, public lands such as schools, hospitals, and even prisons haven't been an idea that needed defending until recently.
What I would urge the community that donate land to school, most of the schools that we have, madam, they are schools that those people who donated the land are no longer in existence. They are our forefathers, they are our grandfathers. Then you just find that people who did not know the processes that were involved in donating this land and how these people agreed are the ones claiming land. So on that line, I would want to encourage our people that if you come up and realize that your grandfather or your forefathers had already given land to school, please let us keep off. Yeah, let us keep off. But for upcoming schools which are new, I would just request the government to be helping schools to acquire this land so that we do no longer depend on donations. Yeah, we can buy. Yeah, let us just approach people. If they're willing to sell land, let them sell land, and then we finish with them. We give them their money, we take their title deed, and now consolidate the land and put it under one holding in the name of the school. Then we will not have any problem.
Imagine a society where the public has no public school land. Where would the majority of Kenyans take their children to school? Public land is our shared heritage as Kenyans and is our way of ensuring that the future of education and lives of future generations is safeguarded.